This presentation was recorded on October 16, 2021 for the Cargo Connect season and was as accurate as possible on that date. Be sure to check for updated challenge information, rules, and event schedules. On behalf of my partners, Stephanie Stern and Janet Anderson, I'm Rick Ramhap, and we want to welcome you to Training Day. This is part of our, shall we say, on-ramp for new and returning coaches. There are a few features to this. If you come to Training Day and get started here and have a good look at some of the skills that are needed that are unique to our program, that will help you, I think. And then we have a practice or preparation event every season. And then between those two things and a little time and maybe some entering, you'll be all set to go for qualifiers. So this is a happy day for us, and one that we've done many times and really enjoy. As many of you know, the first program for inspiration and recognition of science and technology was founded by Dean Kamen. And First Long Island is presented here by School Business Partnerships of Long Island. But there are three FIRST programs here on Long Island: FIRST Robotics Competition, FIRST Tech Challenge, and of course, FIRST Lego League. This season's overall theme is FIRST Forward and is presented by Qualcomm. This year, FIRST teams will address today's global challenges related to United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 9, which is focused on building resilient infrastructure, promoting inclusive and sustainable industrialization, and fostering innovation. Now, for FIRST Lego League, this is the season's theme, which is Cargo Connect, where teams will explore the future of transportation that will better connect and grow communities and economies around the world. Couldn't be more timely than it is now as we face all sorts of questions about the global supply chain. So this should be very interesting, very topical for students. Here's our agenda for today. We'll start out now. We have a few slides here to talk about the season in general and what you may be able to expect. Our judges have prepared a quick presentation to explain some changes in this and last season. And then our head referee, Troy Douglas, is all prepared to talk about some of the robot missions and rules changes and some things that might be a little bit different at the table this year. And finally, but certainly not least, we have not one but two programming sessions available. We'll talk to you a little bit more about that as we move along. I want to say this several times today. The Spike Prime basic programming will take place right here in this meeting. And we have a second meeting set up to handle the advanced programming. And we'll make sure you have that link. That link was on the page on the website where you found this link. And we'll make sure that link gets in the chat as well later as we get a little closer. And yes, it says Spike Prime. And yes, that will apply to your EV3 as well. So Troy, I think we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move along. We're going to try to leave some time for questions. Please use the chat for that if you could. It just allows us to move a little faster. And also, in order to comply with FIRST privacy guidelines, we want to remind you that this session is really intended for adults only. All right. Just a quick reminder of our core values here. These help distinguish FIRST and FIRST Lego League from other programs. By embracing the core values, participants learn that friendly competition and mutual gain are not separate goals, and that helping each other is the foundation of teamwork. Incorporating teamwork activities into each meeting will help your team learn to work together while having fun. So here's a quick summary of some of the things that are new this year. And when I say this year, well, I might mean last year. We have noticed that some of you were not able to form teams last season and may be back with a vengeance this year. And there have been some changes along the way. And you know, the possibility of remote tournaments and all that are only part of that. But there are some new things here. We're not going to go through them in detail yet. We will a little later, but just to give you some highlights. When last some of us met in a real live gymnasium, we had judging. There were 3 judging sessions. Now there is one larger combined judging session, and you'll hear more about that in a few minutes. There have been some changes in the size and shape of parts of the mat that is used for missions, and a little bit of the table structure. And Troy has a recap of that as well. There have been more programming languages allowed now. And so if you have a team of maybe, say, fourth graders that have done this a few times and they're looking for a new challenge, maybe this is the year to try Python instead of drag and drop stuff. So there are some new options there. Robot performance used to be that there was a specific number or a specific ranking you needed to achieve to be considered for advancing to the next level. That process has changed a little bit. And once again, our judge advisors will explain that. And last season, we had the beginnings of what was then called the Remote Event Hub. And this was designed to help teams focus on being able to have tournaments remotely. The Remote Event Hub has been renamed for this season. It's called the Event Hub. And we are told it will be with us for in-person as well as remote tournaments whenever we have either. So this will be a new tool that will be used to execute events. Now, this season, there have been a couple of changes. As I said, the Event Hub has lost its remote name, though it will function in either case, and it has been improved. I will tell you, we have yet to see too much unveiled about that. We've been consulted on some of the updates here and there, but to be honest, we have not seen a lot of that yet. It's just been finished recently, so we're going to tell you what we can, and we will tell you how to find out more. Our referees now will be officially evaluating gracious professionalism, for those of you familiar with that, at the time that your team does its robot runs. So there's always been some input from the robot tables about the gracious professionalism awards and points and all, but those now, there's a formal process for that. And again, Andy, Trish, and Werner will explain a little bit more about that. So as a coach, particularly as a new coach, you may be saying, well, where do I get some information? What do I do? And how do I form my team meetings? Well, some of that can be contained right here. We recognize that many of you are professional teachers and have an absolutely terrific idea of how you want to approach things. We also recognize that others, maybe you're not professional teachers and could use an outline here and there, or maybe you're somewhere in between. Well, the team meeting guide takes you through, I believe it's 12 sessions. I think it can be tailored for 6 or 8 as well. And it will actually give you outlines about how you might conduct your first few meetings. And what's very nice about these is they incorporate not only things to do with the robot, but things to do with teamwork, things to do in preparing for any sort of project as well. So there's some great information in there. The robot game rule book, of course, that would be a key thing. There are lots of rules. And the engineering notebooks, there's one for each child in the box. So this is a place where they can keep track of some things. There's some sort of exercisey things in there about maybe making sketches about ideas about how the robot should work, and some things related to the project and program as well. But these guides, if you have, there may be some of you have done this a few years and said, yeah, we'll get to those maybe in June. I've done this before, and that's all great. The idea there is that you can have, these have really improved. As we have gone to different conferences, we've met with the people that have created these guides. They really, really have improved them. So I'm finding out now there are really only, there are not all of these books are in the box this year. It looks like there's some PDF material that needs to be downloaded to duplicate some of this. We'll double check on that as we go along. And there may have been some delays in some of the printing as well, but we'll double check that. But the guides are definitely available. There is nothing mandatory in the engineering notebook that your students must do. And I make that distinction because if you have been to the First Tech Challenge or maybe even First Robotics competition areas, the term engineering notebook means a little something different there. It's kind of a key judging element for First Tech Challenge. So what can we expect this season on Long Island? Well, let's take a look at some of the events we have planned and some of that. We have, these are the dates that we have scheduled and planned and how you can register for these events. We do know that our preparation day, this is, some of you may know this as a practice tournament. It's going to be a little bit different this year as a preparation day, and we will focus on a couple of things, connecting by online meetings and by preparing for the possibility of remote events. So double checking that the cameras work and all that kind of thing. And then we have 3 potential qualifiers planned. We expect to run qualifiers on the 22nd and 23rd of January. And if there is enough interest, we will look at one on the 29th. Now, our championship is planned for March 5th. You can see where to register. Registration will not open until November 2nd. And then we also have, obviously, a place to put in payments. Please, we appreciate your payments, but it would appreciate it more if you registered first, which will start on November 2nd. Now, to make sure that you are getting our emails, it's important to understand that only the first and second coaches listed with first are the people that would get those emails. Sometimes in schools, we like to put an administrator as one of those coaching positions so they get the information with the emails, but sometimes those emails don't find their way to the coaches. So double check and make sure that you're on the list. So some things, here's some things about preparation day. Again, we will focus pretty much on the things you see here on the screen. Meeting is really with the judges now to review what's expected in the qualifier judging sessions and have that ability to ask questions. A list of questions and responses will be sent to coaches following the event. The meeting with the refs is to review the setup of the field missions, the lighting and the camera positions to ensure quality video or real-time presentation of the robot runs is ready if we need to go there. All right, but what about the qualifiers, you say? Well, we don't know yet. We would love to meet in person, and we're all taking all of these different things into consideration. Right now, we just can't tell you how that's going to work, but we are trying to get to a decision as early as we can and to provide, a good, consistent experience for everyone. We were able to have a season last season when we weren't so sure there for a few weeks, and I think we had a fulfilling season. We'd like to do the same this year. How it's going to look, we're just not 100% sure yet. It could look like any of these. So we're hoping that the qualifiers and championships will be live. However, depending on the situation, we may have to adjust the number of teams participating at one time or the number of spectators. We may also have to implement some safety protocols required by the sites or local health guidelines. Even if events are live, we may have to hold the opening and closing ceremonies remotely. So lots of options in there. We could potentially have hybrid events where either the robot gameplay or project judging could be held remotely, as well as opening and closing ceremonies. And of course, we are prepared if we need to do remote events again. We successfully conducted those last season, and that would all be done remotely. We would do those by Zoom or Teams meetings, and get your trusty phone camera ready, and we would make it work. So if you're new to this, we did some of the ceremonies and all on YouTube last year. Those are available on our YouTube channel. We'll talk a little bit more about that later if you want to go back and get a flavor for how that worked. The first event hub is, as I said, being updated this year. But the idea here, these photos are from a previous version, but the general idea is that this would be a place where you as coaches or your team members can potentially upload things that you want the judges to see. You'll have things to present. The judges will talk to you a little bit later about the advantages and exactly how that detail might work. But it's a place where you can upload files and videos, also certainly for robot runs if we need the referees to review those remotely in a remote situation. We expect that this also facilitates some of the scoring and some of the feedback and some of those things as well. So now there are some resources available for you, and you may be able to take a look at some of the things that we have on our website to get started. We want to point out also that FIRST has really improved a lot of the materials this season, as they do pretty much every season, but there are some really good videos out there as well. I saw an excellent video on how to get your, how to really record your robot runs should we need to go down that path. There often are videos related to the project to give you some ideas about our topic this season. So all sorts of things there. Check these pages out when you get a chance, and those QR codes should lead you to those 2 pages on our site. We would also certainly like to get the word out about our projects and programs, and also things that we need information we need to get to you from time to time. You can join us on Instagram at First Long Island. Watch for posts on Facebook. I would personally like to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Here's the thing. I can't give you a specific URL because we don't have enough subscribers to qualify. So if you were to subscribe, and I'll tell you how to find it, that would really help us get to a point where we'd have a nice, easy to use URL. So to find us, if you go to YouTube and search for First Long Island, all one word, you should be able to find us there pretty quickly. And we are always in need of volunteers. And you say, well, what about volunteers when the events are remote? Well, we needed an awful lot of volunteers last year. In fact, we invented a couple of new positions to use and filled those from all over the place. So we are definitely in need of volunteers, whether remote or on premise. So please, if you've got some time or know some people interested, or some of those parents on the team that need another outlet, we're happy to help there. So please let us know. All right, quick review again of our agenda. I'm a couple of minutes late, and we'll get started with the judges here in just a second. We're going to have about 13 minutes of judging pre-prepared comments, and then we will have time for Q&A there. And then again at about 9:15, we plan to start with Mr. Troy Douglas and the missions and rules. And we'll go through that. He's got quite a bit planned there. When he has completed his task, we will, and we expect you may have some questions there, so we'll try to leave a little bit of time for that. But when he has completed his task, or 10:30-ish, we plan to get started on the programming things. Once again, while you're thinking about that, if you've never touched Spike Prime in a programming before, you should probably join the basic programming session. And if you think that you might be through that a few times and you need some ideas about strategy and maybe using sensors is kind of the dividing line. If you want to go heavier in sensors, you want to stay with the Red Alliance there, which Coach Chris Baker will deal with, and Coach Eric Mealy will head up the Blue Alliance and start with the basics. And once again, we're going to say Spike Prime because that is the new robot for sale and legal to use for First Lego League. The EV3 is still legal as well. If you've got a room full of those, you can still use them. And so there we go. Real quick question. Thank you, Rachel. You've got 10th graders interested in participating. If you would contact me with that, I will try to help you. It's a little tricky. If we're in a remote situation, we're not allowed to use volunteers under 18. However, in a normal year, we have a student event team that is really intended to take kids that are a little older and want to come back and give a hand. And we've had some really good success with that. I can't tell you where we're going to be with the student event team just yet, as we don't know how we're going to proceed. But I would love to make contact with you and see if we can follow up on that as soon as we have an in-person season. So thank you very much. This presentation was recorded on October 16, 2021 for the Cargo Connect season and was as accurate as possible on that date. Be sure to check for updated challenge information, rules, and event schedules.